that women don't notice you. The problem is that you've been chasing validation instead of transformation. Because when you know who you are, when you rise up in your identity, when you walk in confidence that isn't arrogance but purpose, you don't have to beg for attention, you attract it. You don't manipulate a woman's interest, you command respect. And let me tell you something, the right woman doesn't want the loudest man in the room. She wants the man who knows his value even when no one is clapping. So tonight, I'm not teaching you how to trick somebody into wanting you. I'm showing you how to become a man so whole, so grounded, so powerful in his calling, that even the ones who weren't checking for you will have traction begins with identity, not appearance. Too many men have been conditioned to believe that if they can polish their exterior, dress in the right brands, hit the gym for the right physique, or present themselves with the right status symbols, then they will automatically win the affection or attention of a woman. But the truth is, appearance is surface level. It's temporary, it's a presentation. Identity, on the other hand, is who you really are. It is the unshakable foundation of your confidence, your values, your integrity, your vision, your character. And what makes someone truly attractive is not the way they decorate themselves on the outside, but the strength of what they carry within. When a man is rooted in identity, he doesn't walk into a room seeking validation. He doesn't look for the nods of approval, the quick glances of acknowledgement, or the shallow compliments to determine his worth. His worth has already been established in the quiet spaces where he learned who he was. He shows up knowing he belongs, not because of the cut of his suit, but because of the content of his spirit. And that is what radiates beyond anything money can buy. Women can sense when a man is centered. They can feel when he is standing in truth rather than in performance. The problem many men face is that they have invested in their appearance but neglected their identity. And so they project a version of themselves that looks polished but feels hollow. Think about it like this. Appearance can draw the eye, but identity holds the attention. A woman may notice the shoes, the smile, the car, or the haircut, but what keeps her leaning in, what compels her to look deeper, is the way a man speaks with conviction, the way he makes decisions from integrity, the way he responds under pressure, and the way his presence commands peace rather than chaos. Identity is the invisible energy that shifts an atmosphere when a person enters. It is the reason one man can walk into a room and barely be noticed, while another, without saying a word, has people drawn toward him. When you know your identity, you stop competing. You stop comparing yourself to other men. You stop measuring yourself against trends or societal standards. Because your worth isn't found in outdoing someone else, it's found in becoming fully yourself. That kind of authenticity is rare, and rare is always attractive. The man who knows his identity doesn't need to prove anything. He doesn't need to overcompensate. He doesn't need to impress with things that can be bought. He rests in the security of knowing he carries value simply by being. That kind of security is magnetic because it communicates stability, and stability is what so many women long for in a world that constantly feels unstable. Women are not just attracted to the face or the frame of a man, but to the foundation he's built within himself. She will look past broad shoulders if they're carrying insecurity. She will look past a smooth conversation if it's rooted in manipulation. But she will notice the man whose words match his actions, whose demeanor is calm in chaos, whose values are consistent whether anyone is watching or not. That's the power of identity. It strips away the need to pretend, to perform, to posture, and instead creates a natural confidence that cannot be faked. When a man doesn't know his identity, he often swings between extremes. He may become overly flashy, trying to gain attention with outward success. Or he may shrink back, believing he isn't enough, and therefore sabotages himself before he even tries. Both extremes reveal the same wound, a lack of clarity about who he is. And here's the reality. You can't hide that. No matter how dressed up you may look, if you don't know who you are, it will show in your energy, in your decisions, and in the way you move through the world. Identity is not something you can mask. It's either present or absent, and its absence makes everything else feel unstable. But when identity is present, it becomes the compass that guides every interaction. It keeps a man from becoming desperate for approval. It keeps him from bending himself into what he thinks someone else wants. It keeps him aligned with his own values, which ironically makes him far more attractive because it shows that he is anchored, not easily swayed. Women are drawn to that kind of presence because it communicates strength, not in the physical sense, but in the emotional and spiritual sense. Strength that says, I know who I am, and I don't need you to validate me in order for me to keep being that. That kind of strength is rare, and it is deeply compelling. Consider the way people are drawn to leaders. A leader may or may not be the most outwardly impressive person in the room, but their sense of self is so intact that others naturally follow. That is what identity does. It creates an internal leadership, and leadership is inherently attractive. It suggests direction, vision, and purpose. And those are the qualities that outlast looks, money, and surface level charm. A woman may be entertained by appearance, but she will be inspired by identity. And inspiration is what creates true attraction. Identity is also what sustains attraction over time. Appearance will fade, circumstances will change, seasons will shift, but a solid identity only deepens with maturity. A man who knows who he is will continue to grow more grounded, more secure, more influential as time goes on. That longevity is what makes women feel safe investing their attention and their energy, because she's not just looking for a moment of attraction. She's subconsciously evaluating whether this man has the consistency to sustain her trust. And trust cannot be built on appearance. It can only be built on identity. When you invest in discovering your identity, you give yourself permission to stop living in fragments. You stop living from the expectations of culture, family, or peers. You stop living as a chameleon, constantly shifting who you are depending on who you're around. Instead, you live from a place of wholeness, which communicates confidence without arrogance. That wholeness becomes evident in how you carry yourself, how you treat others, how you make decisions, and how you pursue your goals. Wholeness cannot be hidden, and women are naturally drawn to wholeness because it signals maturity, readiness, and stability. So attraction begins not with what you put on, but with what you build within. It's not the suit, the shoes, or the smile, it's the substance. And once you've built that foundation of identity, everything else you add to your appearance only amplifies what's already true on the inside. A sharp appearance on a man who knows himself becomes powerful, but that same appearance on a man without identity is just decoration without depth. Depth is what makes someone linger. Depth is what makes someone choose. Depth is what transforms a momentary spark into a lasting flame. Do you want me to keep building this section out with real-life examples and storytelling analogies like Sarah Jakes Roberts often uses, so it flows more like a spoken sermon than a written essay? Oh, stop and say, who is that? Confidence without purpose is just noise. So many men have mastered the art of projecting confidence. They walk into a room with their chest out, voice raised, laugh louder than everyone else, or dominate a conversation just to prove they belong. But here's the truth. Confidence without a clear sense of purpose is empty. It's a performance that might get temporary attention, but it doesn't create lasting impact. Women can sense the difference between a man who is confident because he knows where he's going and a man who is confident because he doesn't want anyone to see he's lost. One draws respect, the other draws suspicion. One builds trust, the other wears thin quickly. Purpose gives confidence direction. Confidence is the fuel, but purpose is the vehicle. If you have fuel with no vehicle, all you've got is a dangerous spill waiting to catch fire. But when confidence is connected to purpose, it moves with clarity. It doesn't waste energy. It doesn't shout to be heard. It speaks when it matters. It doesn't push itself into spaces it doesn't belong. It flows naturally into environments that align with destiny. A man who knows his purpose doesn't need to convince anyone to notice him. His life speaks louder than his words ever could. Purpose is what separates arrogance from assurance. Arrogance says, look at me. Assurance says, I know why I'm here. And that's what women are drawn to. A man who walks into a space knowing why he exists, what he carries, and what he's building doesn't need to be the loudest because his clarity already communicates volumes. That's why some men with fewer words, fewer resources, and less external flash still carry greater attraction. Their purpose grounds their confidence, and that groundedness is magnetic. The danger of confidence without purpose is that it can mask insecurity. Some men believe if they present themselves with boldness, no one will notice their lack of direction. They cover confusion with charisma, but charisma fades when life tests them. Because without purpose, confidence has nothing to anchor it when storms come, when challenges rise, when rejection happens. When the unexpected shakes the ground, the man without purpose is left scrambling. His confidence becomes fragile, breaking under pressure, revealing that it was never built on something solid. A woman can see that instability, and it causes her to hesitate. Attraction may start strong, but it won't endure when she realizes there's no vision behind the volume. Purpose, on the other hand, gives confidence resilience. A man anchored in purpose doesn't crumble when he's overlooked. He doesn't fall apart when he faces obstacles. He doesn't lose himself when he's misunderstood, because his confidence isn't rooted in applause, it's rooted in assignment. He knows he's not defined by who notices him or who validates him, but by the mission he carries. That kind of man can be patient, steady, consistent, because his confidence flows from something greater than perception. And that steadiness is what women are instinctively drawn to, because it signals reliability and strength. Think about it. Confidence without purpose is like noise without music. It's sound, but it doesn't create harmony. It doesn't inspire. It doesn't move anyone. But when confidence meets purpose, it becomes melody. It becomes rhythm. It becomes something that resonates beyond the surface and touches the heart. That resonance is what creates true attraction, because it's not just about how a man carries himself. It's about the impact of his presence. A man with purpose-driven confidence also knows how to be humble. He understands that his confidence is not about being better than anyone else, but about faithfully walking in what he's called to do. That humility doesn't make him weak. It makes him strong, because it shows he doesn't need to prove anything. His confidence doesn't come from ego. It comes from clarity, and clarity is irresistible. A woman doesn't want a man who is just loud. She wants a man who is clear. Loud fades, but clear sustains. Confidence without purpose also tends to be inconsistent. One day it's bold, the next day it's shaky, because it's built on feelings. But confidence anchored in purpose is consistent because it's built on conviction. A man like that shows up the same way, whether he's applauded or ignored, whether he's winning or learning, whether he's ahead or behind. And that consistency makes people trust him. Trust always multiplies attraction because it communicates safety. And safety is one of the deepest things a woman longs for in connection. Let's be honest, women are exposed to confidence everywhere. In social media, in clubs, in conversations, in interactions with men who know how to say the right thing, stand the right way, project the right energy. But the question isn't he confident? The question is, what is that confidence rooted in? If it's rooted in appearance, money, status, or charm, it won't last. But if it's rooted in purpose, it carries a weight that cannot be faked. That weight is what women respect. That weight is what shifts a man from temporary attraction to lasting influence. Purpose-driven confidence also protects a man from desperation. Because when you know your why, you don't chase after every opportunity, every connection, or every relationship trying to prove yourself. You move with discernment, because not everything is aligned with your assignment. That kind of restraint is powerful. It shows discipline. It shows vision. And discipline and vision are far more attractive than reckless boldness. Women don't just want a man who can walk into a room and own it. They want a man who knows when to walk away, when to stay focused, when to prioritize the bigger picture over temporary thrills. And when confidence flows from purpose, it naturally inspires others. People look at a man like that and feel encouraged to rise higher themselves. That inspiration makes him unforgettable because he's not just living for himself, he's impacting the atmosphere. A woman who encounters that kind of energy doesn't just feel impressed, she feels awakened. And that awakening is far deeper than physical attraction. It's spiritual, emotional, and intellectual attraction combined. It's the kind of attraction that can't be forced, because it comes from alignment. Confidence without purpose is shallow, but confidence with purpose is transformative. It doesn't just say, I believe in myself. It says, I believe in what I'm here to do. That distinction changes everything about how a man moves, how he speaks, how he carries himself, and how people respond to him. It changes the level of respect he receives, the doors that open for him, and the way women view him. Because women don't just want confidence, they want confidence that leads somewhere. They want confidence that carries vision. They want confidence that's connected to destiny. Respect is more magnetic than charm. Charm can light up a moment, make someone laugh, make them lean in for a while. But respect is what leaves a lasting impression long after the conversation is over. Charm often entertains, but respect builds trust. And trust is the deepest form of attraction because it makes people feel safe, valued, and seen. A man who learns the art of respect automatically elevates himself above those who rely on charm alone. Because charm may impress someone's emotions, but respect touches their dignity. Respect is not just about how a man treats a woman when he wants her attention. True respect is consistent. It shows up whether she's interested or not, whether anyone is watching or not, whether he stands to gain anything from her or not. That kind of respect communicates integrity. Integrity is magnetic because it reveals stability, and stability is rare in a culture that glorifies temporary connections and shallow attention. A woman can enjoy charm, but she trusts respect, and her heart leans toward what it can trust. When a man operates from respect, his presence becomes disarming. He doesn't push, he doesn't manipulate, he doesn't corner someone into feeling obligated. Instead, he creates an atmosphere where the other person feels free to be themselves. That freedom is attractive because it's safe. Women are constantly evaluating whether a man is safe to be around, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Charm can mask danger, but respect communicates safety. Respect says, I don't just see what I want from you, I see who you are, and I honor it. That honor is what makes respect stand out in a world full of performance. Charm also tends to be selective. A man may be charming when he sees someone he wants to impress, but dismissive toward people he doesn't find useful. Respect, however, is universal. It shows up in how a man treats the waitress, the stranger, the colleague, the child, the elder. Women notice these things. They watch how a man interacts with others because it reveals his character more than his words ever could. A man who can flatter her but disrespect others will not hold her interest for long. But a man who carries respect like a natural language makes her lean in without him trying. Respect is also powerful because it demonstrates discipline. It shows that a man knows how to manage himself, his impulses, his words, his actions. He doesn't just say what sounds good in the moment. He measures his speech because he understands the weight of it. He doesn't let his desires override his principles. He doesn't allow his emotions to turn into recklessness. That level of discipline communicates maturity, and maturity is attractive because it promises consistency. A woman wants to know that the same man who is respectful in public will be respectful in private. Charm can't guarantee that, but respect can. When you build a foundation of respect, you also build influence. People follow those they respect, not those who merely entertain them. A man who respects others naturally earns respect in return. That reciprocity creates a cycle of influence that expands his presence without him needing to be flashy. Women are drawn to men with influence, not because of the attention they receive, but because of the weight they carry. That weight makes a woman feel secure, knowing she is connected to someone who doesn't just talk a good game, but actually embodies values that command loyalty. Respect is more magnetic because it outlasts circumstances. Charm can fade once the excitement wears off, but respect leaves a permanent mark. A woman may forget the exact words a charming man used to win her attention, but she will never forget how respected she felt in his presence. That memory lingers. It shapes the way she thinks about him long after he's gone. And even if she isn't interested romantically, respect positions him in a place of dignity in her eyes. That's why respect multiplies opportunities, not just in relationships, but in every sphere of life. Charm often seeks to impress. It focuses on presentation, on saying the right things, on showing up polished and persuasive. Respect, however, focuses on value. It isn't about impressing someone, it's about uplifting them. A man who respects a woman doesn't make her feel like an object to be won, but like a human being to be honored. That distinction changes the entire energy of the interaction. Instead of feeling pressured, she feels empowered. Instead of feeling like she's being pursued as a conquest, she feels like she's being regarded as a partner. And that feeling is powerful enough to turn curiosity into genuine attraction. Respect also reflects how a man respects himself, the way he sets boundaries, the way he carries himself, the way he refuses to compromise his values for temporary gain. All of these communicate self-respect. And self-respect is contagious. A man who respects himself invites others to treat him with the same level of dignity. Women are drawn to that because it shows he knows his worth. And when a man knows his worth, he doesn't have to chase validation. That confidence paired with respect creates a magnetic presence that charm alone can never achieve. Another reason respect is more magnetic than charm is because it builds legacy. Charm may win someone over in the short term, but respect builds a reputation that precedes a man wherever he goes. People speak about him with honor because they remember how he made them feel. That kind of legacy opens doors, sustains relationships, and creates opportunities that charm could never sustain. Women are not just attracted to a man's present energy, but to the promise of his future. Respect signals that his future will be steady, honorable, and fruitful, and that makes her feel safe attaching her life to his. In moments of conflict, charm often disappears. When disagreements rise, when challenges come, when frustration sets in, Charm usually gives way to impatience or anger, but respect endures even under pressure. A man who operates from respect doesn't let his emotions strip him of honor. He knows how to disagree without demeaning. He knows how to correct without belittling. He knows how to express his frustration without disrespecting the other person's dignity. That ability is magnetic because it shows he has control, wisdom, and balance. Women are drawn to that because it communicates that his love will not turn into harm when tested. Respect also deepens intimacy. Charm can create chemistry, but respect creates connection. Chemistry may spark desire, but connection sustains relationship. When a woman feels respected, she feels safe to be vulnerable, safe to share her truth, safe to trust. That trust deepens emotional intimacy, which in turn fuels attraction. Without respect, intimacy becomes shallow or even manipulative. But with respect, intimacy becomes sacred, and sacred spaces are what women long to experience with a man. Charm without respect can often feel like a mask. It can make a woman question what's real and what's performance. But respect feels authentic. It doesn't need to perform. It simply flows from who the man is. That authenticity is attractive because it is rare. In a culture where so many people are trying to impress, authenticity stands out. A man who leads with respect doesn't need to convince anyone. His actions prove everything. That quiet assurance has more pull than the loudest charm in the room. Would you like me to move on and expand as keynote no point force in the same style and length next? Wholeness attracts wholeness. A man who is fractured, still bleeding from old wounds, still chained to insecurities, still carrying unresolved anger or resentment, often finds himself stuck in cycles of disappointment in relationships. He may look good, he may speak well, he may even know how to capture attention, but eventually what's broken inside him seeps through. You cannot hide brokenness forever because brokenness leaks. It shows up in how you react, how you handle conflict, how you treat people, how you interpret love. Women are wired to notice inconsistencies. They may be drawn to the surface at first, but when they sense fractures underneath, it creates hesitation. That's why wholeness is so magnetic, because it communicates healing, stability, and maturity. Wholeness means you are not looking for someone to complete you. You are looking for someone to complement you. Many men approach women with the unspoken desire that she will fix what's missing inside of them. They want her affirmation to replace their insecurity. They want her attention to cover their loneliness. They want her presence to heal their past. But when a man carries wholeness, he no longer places that burden on her. He doesn't come empty-handed, asking her to fill him. He comes already full, ready to share, ready to pour, ready to add rather than subtract. That fullness is deeply attractive because it says, I am not here to drain you. I am here to partner with you. Wholeness shows up in how a man handles rejection. When a man is whole, a note doesn't shatter his sense of self. He doesn't spiral into bitterness or lash out in disrespect. Instead, he moves forward with grace because his identity is not tied to someone else's response. That resilience is attractive because it communicates strength. Women notice when a man can handle disappointment without losing his character. They notice when he can move on without resentment because it shows he has learned how to heal and keep his heart intact. Wholeness also reveals itself in how a man resolves conflict. A fractured man will fight dirty, attacking, manipulating, or withdrawing when things get hard. But a whole man approaches conflict with clarity and self-control. He doesn't need to win by breaking the other person down. He knows how to listen, how to communicate, how to work toward resolution instead of destruction. That emotional intelligence is a direct result of doing the work of becoming whole. And emotional intelligence is attractive because it makes a woman feel like she is safe to disagree without losing the relationship. A whole man carries peace. His energy doesn't feel chaotic or unstable. When he enters a room, he brings calm rather than confusion. That peace doesn't mean he avoids problems, but it means he has cultivated an inner stability that external circumstances cannot easily shake. Women are drawn to that kind of man because life itself is unpredictable, and to have someone who can remain steady in storms is priceless. Peace is not flashy like charm, but it is unforgettable. A woman may be entertained by excitement, but she is sustained by peace, and peace flows from wholeness. Wholeness is also attractive because it signals self-awareness. A whole man knows his flaws, but he doesn't hide them or project them onto others. He acknowledges where he needs growth and takes responsibility for his own development. That humility creates trust because it shows he isn't living in denial or arrogance. Women respect men who know themselves deeply because it communicates honesty and accountability. It's one thing to claim confidence, But true confidence is being able to admit imperfection without being consumed by it. That balance only comes from wholeness. Another layer of wholeness is freedom from comparison. A fractured man is constantly measuring himself against others, competing to prove his worth, trying to outshine someone else. But a whole man is rooted in his own lane. He celebrates others without envy because he knows their success doesn't diminish his value. That security is magnetic. It communicates abundance instead of scarcity. A woman can feel when a man isn't threatened by others, when he isn't insecure about his place, and it makes her feel secure with him. Insecurity creates tension, but wholeness creates ease. Wholeness also transforms how a man loves. A fractured man loves with conditions, with fear, with control, with hidden agendas. A whole man loves freely because he isn't afraid of losing himself in the process. He doesn't see love as a risk to his identity, but as an opportunity to expand it. That kind of love is attractive because it isn't suffocating, it's liberating. It doesn't demand perfection. It nurtures growth. It doesn't cling from fear. It connects from strength. Women long for that kind of love because it feels safe and empowering. Wholeness is magnetic because it is rare. Many people avoid the process of healing. They distract themselves with success, appearance, or relationships, but never deal with the broken parts within. A man who has done the hard work of confronting his wounds, forgiving his past, and rebuilding his sense of self shines differently. His confidence is quieter but deeper. His presence is lighter but stronger. His energy communicates that he is not carrying unresolved battles. And that difference is felt immediately, even if it isn't spoken. Wholeness doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean a man never struggles or never feels pain. It means he knows how to process those struggles in healthy ways. It means he doesn't project his pain onto others. It means he doesn't let his past dictate his future. That resilience is what makes wholeness so compelling. Women are not looking for a flawless man. They are looking for a man who knows how to handle his flaws with wisdom. They want to know that when challenges come, he won't unravel or collapse, but will stand firm and keep growing. A whole man also attracts whole women. Brokenness tends to attract brokenness, creating cycles of dysfunction where both people feed off each other's wounds. But when a man is whole, he raises the standard of what he will accept and what he will give. He invites women who have also done their work, women who know their worth, women who want partnership instead of rescue. That alignment is powerful because it creates relationships built on strength instead of survival. Wholeness also changes the way a man sees success. A fractured man may chase money, status, or recognition to fill the emptiness inside. But a whole man pursues success with intention, not desperation. He doesn't need external wins to feel validated. He knows his value before the trophies, the applause, or the achievements. That security makes his pursuit more focused and less frantic. It makes him stand out because he's not chasing validation. He's walking in purpose. Women notice that distinction, and it draws them in because it shows depth instead of desperation. Wholeness attracts wholeness because it speaks a universal language: peace, security, maturity, and clarity. It is not loud, but it is undeniable. It doesn't demand attention, but it naturally receives it. A whole man doesn't have to beg for connection because his wholeness itself becomes an invitation. Women lean toward wholeness instinctively because deep down they want a partner who doesn't just look good for a moment, but can stand strong for a lifetime.